dear children, Namaste and welcome to yet another session of our terminology series for CBSE Class 9. This is Ambika, your biology master teacher, right here on the super duper amazing platform, which is Vedantu 9th and 10th English. Well, guys, let us get started. As you know, terminology series is one in which we discuss the important terms, the most important or slightly tricky to remember sort of terms from every chapter. So for all three batches, we've been doing this: CBSE 9, CBSE 10, and ICSE 10. All right. So today is yet another session for CBSE 9 students, which is from the chapter tissues. Right, guys? So let's move ahead. I think talking about this chapter tissues, this is one in which probably this year you have only 3 chapters in biology, that is fundamental unit of life, tissues, and why do we fall ill, right? So probably out of these 3, the relatively hardest chapter is considered to be tissues. So it's not all that difficult. I know that for some of you, you are done with your final exams at your school. Whatever the case may be, whether you are done with it or not, it will be definitely very, very useful to you, because these terms make your basic biology a lot better. A lot of harder, complex, seemingly complex concepts in biology will be much easier to understand, provided you have a good grip over basic terms that we studied this year. All right, guys. So let's get started. So, as always, with a positive quote: own your power. Yes, remember to start your day with something positive like this. Own your power. Everything lies within you, and you have the power to make your day beautiful and the most memorable one. Right? Okay, so let's begin. Cells. Of course, cell is a term that we've discussed in the chapter, the fundamental unit of life. But then, in the chapter tissues as well, it makes complete sense to understand what a cell would be, right? Because it's cells which group together to form tissues. So cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life. As simple as that. Okay, so all about the plasma membrane, the cell wall, the cytoplasm, and the different cell organelles, the nucleus. We've learned this in the chapter fundamental unit of life, right? So you know that, but just have this idea in mind. Division of labor. Yes, what does this mean? Now, in the context of biology, division of labor would refer to something that describes the specialized functions of cell organelles. Cell organelles, each cell organelle, as you know, within a cell performs different functions. Remember, we compare it to a factory, we compare it to an office, we compare it to a shopping mall, so many things that we've done to understand the cell. So every organelle, we've got a recycle bin, we've got a kitchen in the cell, we've got a powerhouse in the cell, we've got something that's the carpet, the flooring that forms the flooring of the cell, something that forms the pantry with the coffee vending machine and basic snacks which are provided. There is the CEO's office. All of this is there. So we know that every organelle has got a specific function. Every one of them divide the tasks which are required to be done within a cell. That is what we call division of labor. Within a unit, when the tasks are divided between the individual units, individual subunits, we call it division of labor. So as far as a cell is concerned, it's between the cell organelles that we see division of labor. As far as the human body is concerned, different organ systems, there is division of labor. My digestive system, for example, would take care of functions related only to digestion. My respiratory system would take care of functions only related to my respiration, and so on. And when you look inside an organ system, there is division of labor between organs. Within an organ, there would be division of labor between different kinds of tissues. And within a tissue, it will be between different types of cells. Within a cell, as mentioned here, between different cell organelles. So this is it, division of labor. I think that cartoon there is a very, very good representation of what exactly the meaning of this is. Okay, now, next term. Differentiation of cells. What do we mean by this? Now, cellular differentiation is the process by which a particular cell a particular cell has the ability to change from one cell type to another, right? So this may be seen in plants, this may be seen in animals as well. So something that's like previously in the embryonic stage, or at any of those earlier stages in life, there is a set of cells, there is a group of cells. Eventually, as development happens in an organism, they may specialize to take up one or more functions. This is what we mean by differentiation of cells, the process by which a cell changes from one cell type to another. Usually, a cell changes to a more specialized type. It gets promoted, just like in an office, right? Okay, now, meristematic tissue. What is meristematic tissue? Remember, in this chapter, main thing that you need to remember are the types of tissues. Meristematic tissues specifically are tissues in which cells are forever young, right? They are evergreen and young, always young. They never get old, right? So cells that can constantly divide are what we call meristematic tissues. Usually they are found at the tips of shoots and roots. Shoot tips and root tips are where typically meristematic tissue can be found. There are meristems in other parts as well. We look at those terms as well. What are permanent tissues now? These meristematic tissues, just like cell differentiation that I told you about, in the case of plants, what happens is some meristematic tissues at a point of life, they stop growing any further. They stop dividing any further. They take up more specialized functions in the plant body and become what we call permanent tissues. They take up a permanent job, basically, as simple as that. Okay, so this is it. They are usually incapable of meristematic activity, which means they are no more capable of cell division. Okay, right. So this is permanent tissue. Now coming to the types of meristematic tissues, there are three major types, which are apical, intercalary, and lateral. Listen carefully, children, because these terms are quite often confused with each other. Remember, to be able to recall the meaning of apical meristem, meristem, always remember, it's the type of tissue whose cells can constantly divide, right? Now, apical meristem, what does that mean? Think of the word apex. What would that mean? It means, literally it means tip, the end or the tip. So apical meristem would be a type of meristem which is found at the shoot tips and root tips. Right? So once apical meristem is lost, it means the shoot tips or root tips are lost. Some plants may not be able to undergo growth, undergo division as well as they could earlier in some of them. Okay, so remember, because they are found at shoot tips and root tips, they help in growth of the plant body, increase in length of the shoot and increase in length of the roots as well. This is what apical meristem does. Now the next one, which is lateral meristem. Remember, children, always the term lateral would mean sides, right? Latitudes and longitudes, what are they? Now, if this is the earth, remember, you would have learned in your basic geography that these are the latitudes, right? And these are the longitudes. Longitudinal and horizontal or latitudinal. Now, lateral meristem would be the type of meristem which is found on the sides of the plant body. When there are tissues on the sides of your body, for example, when there are tissues on the sides of your body, for example, if they keep growing on the sides of your body, tissues are keep constantly dividing and growing. What do you think would happen to your body? You would increase in fatness, right? Increase in girth. This is exactly what happens in a plant body as well. And this is what helps in giving rise to older trees. How do they manage to be so fat? They all start their life as a small sapling, which becomes a plantlet, a very young plant, and an older plant. Lateral meristem keeps growing and growing and growing sideways so that girth of the plant is increased. So I'll just write that: increase in diameter or increase in girth of the plant body. Increase in girth. This term is important to know. Girth of the plant body. All right. This is what lateral meristem does. Now coming to intercalary meristem. Now apical, lateral, we've seen. What is intercalary meristem? Intercalary meristem is a type of meristem which is found at the regions between adjacent nodes. Now, a node, for example, I've told you this several times, a node is a point on a stem at which a leaf is attached. So this is one node. This is another node. The space between them is what we call an internode, right? Node 1 and node 2, space between that is what we call an internode. Intercalary meristem would be found mainly in regions like these, right? So this is also, remember children, this point is very important because it's related to this context, related to this particular term especially, makes a lot of sense over here. Grasses, which are grazed upon by cows, deer, and all of those herbivorous animals, how do they grow back to normal? It's because of intercalary meristem. Because what's the logic behind asking that kind of question, children? Because when these organisms, when these herbivores are feeding on the grass, they are actually feeding off the apical meristem. They are feeding off all this top portion, right? If this is the grass, all these herbivorous organisms, herbivorous animals are feeding off, chewing off all the top portions of the grass, which means apical meristem is lost. Despite that, how do they grow back to normal? It's because of intercalary meristem. Okay, right. Now the next one, intercellular space. This is something you need to be able to make sense of by just looking at the term inter. What does that mean? Inter and cellular. Break it over there. Inter would mean between, and cellular would mean cells, between cells, the space between adjacent cells. As you can see here, these hollow spaces out here between adjacent cells, we call them intercellular spaces. Okay, right. Next one, parenchyma. Parenchyma is in fact a type of simple permanent tissue. Now under plant tissue, remember meristematic and permanent. Under meristematic, there's apical, lateral, intercalary. Under permanent, there are simple and complex permanent tissues. Under simple permanent tissue, first type we understand about is parenchyma. Parenchyma is a type of simple permanent tissue wherein plenty of intercellular spaces can be seen. So it can either be seen like this, or it can either be this like this in shape, or it can even be circular, but with plenty of intercellular spaces between adjacent cells. Right? So it may take up any specific function, like in the case of Sclerenchyma or Parenchyma and all of those. I'll just write those terms here. Sclerenchyma, which is a specialized type of parenchyma that performs photosynthesis, that can involve itself in photosynthesis. Another type of parenchyma is Parenchyma, which helps in providing buoyancy to aquatic plants. Right, children? So that's about parenchyma. Remember, they are completely living cells and they've got very, very thin cell walls. That's one major point you need to remember. Thin cell walls, they have the ability to grow and divide as well, up to a certain extent. Right? Okay. Now the next one, Collenchyma. What is Collenchyma? Remember, they are also a kind of simple permanent tissue. But the difference between this and parenchyma would be that in Collenchyma, there would be irregular thickenings on the cell walls. So, for example, if this is a cell, this is its neighboring cell, this is its neighboring cell, and so on. There are many different kinds of cells like these. Because they are tissues, we need to make sure that we give the idea of constant division out there. Now, Collenchyma would be the kind of tissue in which thickenings, cell wall material would have a lot of thickening at corners like these, right? This is what we call Collenchyma. What is its importance? Now, like Sclerenchyma and Parenchyma in the case of specialized parenchyma, Collenchyma has a specific function. It helps us bend a plant without breaking it up to a certain extent. The stem of a plant, the green stem of a plant, if you just tried bending it gently, up to a certain extent, it can bend without breaking. That sort of flexibility can be attributed to the presence of Collenchyma. Right, children? So provides flexibility to plant parts. But at the same time, it's not so flexible that it can tear off or anything. It does provide a certain extent of mechanical support as well. So that's what Collenchyma does. Then comes Sclerenchyma, wherein the cell walls are completely thickened. Very, very, very thick cell walls, as you can see here. Right? So mature Sclerenchyma cells, we can say, are usually dead cells which have heavily thickened cell walls. They contain a substance called lignin. So it's a cell wall material which makes up the cell walls. Okay, so in Sclerenchyma, there's a lot of lignin deposition, making the walls very, very thick. So there would be like literally zero intercellular spaces. All right? Yes. Now the next one, what is epidermis? Now, in the case of plants, epidermis would be the term that we use to the outermost layer of cells. As far as a tissue is concerned, take the cross section of a particular stem. Take a plant, like for example, in this example, it's a hydrilla plant. Take a cross section of it with a thin blade. If you just took a small section of it, one thin slice of the stem basically, stain it appropriately, observe it under the microscope, you would see the cells arranged like this. The outermost ring of cells, which you see here, we call it epidermis. All right. So to draw it in a different way, when you just draw one section of it, probably this is what the epidermis would look like. Just draw it in a horizontal manner instead of circular one. This is the epidermis. Now, above the epidermis, outer to the epidermis, in many plants, there might be a layer which we call cuticle, a waxy cuticle. Okay, so the cuticle is important to act as a protective barrier to prevent excessive transpiration and anything else. It acts as a sort of protective covering out there. So this is the epidermis. This is the cuticle, right? And inner to this, you would find all the other tissue layers. Okay. Now comes lignin. I think I've already told you this, the cell wall material. But chemically, what is it? It's a class of complex organic polymers. And they form a major role, they play a major role in providing structure and support to many tissues of plants. Because as I told you, in the case of Sclerenchyma, cell walls have a heavy deposition of these substances. So in the wood and bark of older stems especially, there would be a lot of lignin deposition to give them the much required rigidity and the firmness. Okay, right. Now it's time to take a very quick break, children, because as you know, apart from the YouTube platform, Vedantu does a lot to help you out in your exams to make you a holistic learner. How exactly does this work? Children, you now have the opportunity. You may be in 9th standard right now, about to appear for your final exams, or you may be a student who just finished 9th, entering into 10th standard, or you may be a 10th grader yourself, or whatever it may be, whichever grade you may be in, or whatever stage of transition you may be in, listen to me carefully, okay? Because at Vedantu, a live class is not like usual normal live classes. It doesn't look like a recorded video, okay? Because there's a lot of interaction that occurs, that happens between the teachers and the students. So you have the opportunity to attend unlimited live classes with a lot of fun and super high level quizzes. That means your confidence levels are going to be boosted up a lot, okay? On top of this, the best part is that you can compete with students across the world and across different parts of the country as well. So that you know where you stand. You know what are your strengths, you know what are your weaknesses. Your confidence can be boosted accordingly, right? Now, one interesting feature which many of our students love is the fact that we've got this interactive replay option, wherein just in case you miss any session while it's happening live, you can always go back to the replay button, just click on it and watch whatever you missed. You will be able to have a look at all the doubts that were asked in the session while it happened live. Also, Another thing is you can also take part in the quiz and be on the leaderboard just like any other live quiz. But isn't that amazing? Yes, it is, definitely. I would have loved it if I was a student in your position. And also, children, handwritten notes from your teachers, I think, has a very good connect, builds a very good connect basically, because for me in my school days that's how it used to be. So at Vedantu you can be sure to get the handwritten notes of your master teachers in a downloadable format after every single session. Okay. And in class doubt solving, quality tests and assignments all are going to be part of this course. And also, like icing on top of the cake, 5,000 plus micro courses and free crash courses for competitive exams. Everything without any extra cost, provided you are registered for Vedantu Pro subscription. So, how exactly does the pricing work? Shouldn't I tell you that? To know more about this, click on the description box below. Okay, in the description box below, you will find a point which says subscribe to Vedantu Pro now. You will find a link right next to it. Click on that link. Go on following the steps that it takes you through. Apply the coupon code AMBPRO. Okay? Right. So what is the pricing like? Now for a 1 month subscription. Now this especially I'm going to be telling you about next year's, the upcoming academic year for session 2022. So in case you want to give it a shot, I would suggest go for the 1 month subscription, because if you are completely confident enough that it will be totally working and worth for you, go for the long term plan. Go for the long term March 2022 academic year plan, wherein the total cost is going to be 32,399 without any discounts for the full academic year. All right. But in case you just want to give it a try, we completely understand, because whatever I may tell you, children, or whatever other teachers may tell you, you may not get the complete picture of it unless you experience it yourself. Right? You may have your preferences. You may have certain expectations. You may want to try it out and see for yourselves. That's why the 1 month plan is also there. So the pro price without any discounts would be 3,000 for a month, in which it covers science, maths, English, social studies. Now apply the coupon code AMBPRO and it gets reduced to 2,400. And in this case, it gets reduced to 25,919.2 for 1 full year. All right. Now divide that by the number of sessions which you can avail. In the 1 month subscription, you can avail around 200 live sessions, if not more. Okay. So to calculate the per session cost, 2,400 divided by 200, obviously it gives you the per class price of rupees 12. Isn't that amazing? So much high quality content at just rupees 12 per session. And for the long term plan, it would be a little more reasonable for you, because totally you are going to be able to avail 2,400 sessions in all, right? If not more, because this is for 1 full year. That makes it 10.7 rupees per session. Not a major difference, but of course, when you think about it in the long run, that is definitely more beneficial for you pocket-wise. But as I told you, it's completely up to you. 1 month, you want to try it out, go ahead for this, because it's only rupees 12 per session that you pay. And as you can see, it's even less priced than your favorite noodle packet. Maggie, 2 minutes noodles. Yes, isn't that amazing? Knowledge at such amazing cost, definitely worth trying it out, children. All right. Yes. Now let us continue. Guard cells. What are guard cells? Now I've told you about epidermis. Remember? Epidermis. Where do you find the epidermis? The outermost layer in a plant. The epidermis. In between that, you would find cells which are called guard cells. Right? So these are guard cells. Guard cells are cells which guard tiny openings which we call stomata. Stoma would be singular, stomata would be plural. These bean-shaped cells, right? So they play a major role because they control the opening and closing of stomata, right? For the breathing of the plant, which means for respiration, for transpiration, and all of these guard cells are very, very important. All right. Where do you find them? As I told you, the epidermis. Now, what is cutin? Remember, I told you there is an outer covering that you would find if this is the epidermal layer. Yes, I'm drawing it for you over and over again, but just a rough diagram. This is the cuticle, right? Remember the waxy layer. A substance, a waxy transparent material which makes up the cuticle or which occurs in the cuticle is what we call cutin, right? I know the term sounds very cute, right? Cutin. Lignin is something that you find on the cell walls. Cutin is something that you would find in the cuticle or the cuticular layer. Okay, so what does it contain? Chemically, it consists of highly polymerized esters of fatty acids. This is what cutin does. Now, over here, you can look at a section of the leaf. This one small section zoomed in, and you can see a lot of different parts. The epidermis, the outermost, that green, cushiony, quilt-like structure, that's the epidermis. But on top of that is a thin, transparent covering called the cuticle. Do you see that? The cuticle. Yes? Okay. Now, what are epithelial tissues? Now we've spoken enough about plant tissues. Meristematic and permanent, apical, intercalary, lateral, and under permanent it would be simple and complex. Simple would be parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Complex would be xylem and phloem, conducting tissues. Right? Now coming to animal tissues, 4 major terms. Epithelial tissue is the first one. Remember, epithelial would mean covering, protective covering. A tissue that provides a protective covering to different organs of your body and to your body as a whole. So it includes different subtypes. You may remember this, right? Squamous epithelium, under which again simple squamous and stratified squamous, and so many different types that we need to know about: columnar epithelium, glandular epithelium, and all of those, right? But overall, their common meaning is that they provide protection. Okay, next type, connective tissue. What does the term connective mean? Connects something, connects different body parts. So something like blood, something like areolar tissue, adipose tissue. These are all kinds of tissues in our body which provide a sort of supportive framework connecting different parts of the body of an individual. Right? So they have different functions, as you know, areolar tissue to provide, to fill up empty spaces and to provide structural support, to provide areas for repair of damaged tissue, so on. Adipose tissue for fat storage, so many functions. But just remember, overall, connective tissue, blood and bones come under this category. Remember them. What would they do? Connect one part of your body to another, right? Form a framework, connect one part to the other. All right, muscular tissue, I'm sure you all know this. It's a type of animal tissue again, which makes up muscles in our bodies. What are the different types of muscles? Striated or skeletal, smooth or non-striated, and cardiac muscle. So this would be, remember what they do. Voluntary, this would be, non-striated would be involuntary, and cardiac would also be involuntary, but this is found only in your heart. Okay, right. Now going to the last one, which is nervous tissue. Of course, this is also very, very simple. Nervous tissue makes up your nervous system, makes up your brain, spinal cord, and the different parts of your nervous system, which are your nerves, brain, and the spinal cord. Okay, and remember the term neuron. Neuron would be the individual cell, cellular or structural and functional units which make up the nervous tissue. Right, students? So many terms. What are they? These are the terms that we've looked at today. Cell, division of labor, differentiation of cells, apical meristem basically, lateral and intercalary meristem, Collenchyma, Lignin, Parenchyma, guard cells, remember those bean-shaped structures, bean-shaped cells, intercellular spaces, stomata, meristematic tissues, permanent tissues, epidermis, cutin makes up the cuticle, right? Sclerenchyma, and the animal tissues which are epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous tissue. Right, children? So that pretty much summarizes it all. And remember, the coupon code is AMBPRO. Click on the link in the description box below. And it's also given in the pinned comment in the comment section below. All right. And that's about it, children. If you have found this useful, please click on the like button right now and share it with all your friends. I would say class 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, anyone at all who has biology as a subject in the upcoming academic year. Share it with them, because forming a good base in understanding the terms in biology is what makes you an expert in this subject. Right, children? That's about it from my side. Stay subscribed as well, because in the days to come, we will be coming up with more and more interesting sessions and probably series for you. And until we meet again, remember to stay happy and stay healthy, because that's all that matters. This is Ambika signing off. Bye bye.